Welcome to A Nice Place to Podcast, a City of Fountain Valley podcast. Join us each month as we discuss all topics, fun, informational, and educational, that's related to Fountain Valley. We appreciate your support and thank you for watching.
Hello, and welcome back to A Nice Place to Podcast, episode number 7. I'm your mayor and host, Glenn Grandis. I'm happy to introduce our guest speaker for today, Fire Chief Bill McQuaid. In this podcast, you'll learn about Chief McQuaid's role running the fire department, steps taken to achieve his role, major accomplishments, and his community involvement in the city. Welcome, Chief.
Well, welcome, Mayor. Thanks for having me here today.
I appreciate you making the time.
You know, I think it's number 7, you said?
This is number 7.
Number 7. I've been wondering when I would get an invite. So
there you go. Well, you know, we're building up momentum.
You're building up. I get it.
There we go. So tell us a little bit about who is Chief McQuaid?
Wow. Let's see. Chief McQuaid. Well, like you know, I got a lot of ties to this community. Right. So I grew up in this community. My family moved here back in the early 70s. So we go back to when there was almost as many farm fields as there were housing tracts.
Right.
So my connection is pretty deep. Went to grade school here, went to high school here. I go back to remember the Fountain Valley Drive-In Theater. So my commitment to this community really ties in with who I am. When you ask who's Chief McQuaid, Chief McQuaid is somebody that's been part of this community for almost 5 decades.
Wow.
And had really a blessing to have the opportunity to serve here in Fountain Valley where I grew up.
Yeah, and talking about growing up in Fountain Valley, so I knew Chief McQuaid when he went to Myola High School, or Myola Elementary School. There
Correct.
you go. And was in the Builders Club when I was in Key Club. Both are organizations tied to the Kiwanis Club, community service. So back when you were just a little 8th grader, I knew you when I was in high school. I'm a couple of years ahead of you.
Yeah, we were the founders of the Builders Club at Myola.
That's right. The first ones, that's for sure. So you've been involved with community service all the way since elementary school.
Yeah, it goes back a long way.
Yeah, well, you're a homegrown guy, a Baron for life, right?
100%.
There you go. So have you always lived in Fountain Valley?
Not my entire life. I bleed Nebraska red. So I was born in Omaha, Nebraska. Family came out here when I was young. We lived in Torrance for a little bit, and then my family bought a house in Fountain Valley. And my mother still lives in the house today. Like I said, going back to the early 70s. So the majority of my life has been spent here in Fountain Valley.
Wow,
that's where my true connections are.
Well, we can tell. I mean, when we talk about the fire chief around here, it's just known that you care so much about our community and, you know, giving back to the community. Maybe talk about that a little bit.
About giving back to the community or about kind of my passions in pursuit of the fire service?
Either way.
Specific.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
So I think if we talk about my passion for the fire service and my commitment to the community, you know, I just had the opportunity, and it was really blessed to participate in the Lunch and Learn here for all of our city employees. And one of the things I talked about in there was knowing your why and how that brings the passion to what you do specifically, right? So when I talk about knowing your why, it's knowing your personal why, your professional why, and your organizational why. And how those things really bring out the seed and the commitment to your focus. So for me, when I start talking about the fire service and the things that I do and why I do them, I talked a little bit about coming from this community. That's part of it. I grew up here. I belong here. I serve here for a reason. I could serve anywhere I wanted. But going to a big department and serving somewhere else meant nothing to me as what it meant to serve my community, my hometown, where my family grew up and where, you know, I'm basically paying it back to what the community gave me. So when I talk about those things, I look at the passion for the fire service. Where does it come from, that spark? People talk about service to others, I think that's just the surface. For me, it's not just service to others. It's service to others at the worst moment of an emergency, at their worst moment where they have nowhere else to turn. Right. And we have the opportunity to turn chaos into calm. That's truly my why as the fire chief, as a firefighter, as a person. So that's where my passion comes from.
I remember I went just a few months ago through Fire Academy 101, where you really showed us what the firefighters do. And one of the things that you mentioned, and it really resonated with me, was when you start your shift, you don't know what's going to happen that day. It could be anything. And what it takes to have that mentality. I don't know, maybe you could touch on that.
Yeah, I remember sharing those words with you. And believe me, those were calculated, because most people don't truly understand that. When you come to work, let's say if you work in an office environment, you pretty much know how your day's going to go. You got a calendar and how that's going to play out for you.
Right.
You have a schedule. We have no schedule. When I start talking about the worst moment of somebody's life, that's when they ring the bells, call 911, and bring us out to bring that chaos to the calm. But that chaos could be anything. So we're called the fire department, but that's really a misnomer. We're an all-risk response agency. Right. People call us for any and everything, so we have to be prepared for any type of emergency, any type of response. Structure fires, hazardous material events, explosions, car wrecks, entrapments, technical rescues, medical aids, you name it, things that we don't even think about, but we have to use the toolbox that we have to solve those problems.
Yeah, I know when I went through the academy, I didn't really fully understand all that was. I mean, one of the things was carrying a hose up 4 flights of stairs, but it was in pitch dark.
Yeah.
And with my turnouts on, I almost died. It was so hard. And then, the jaws of life, taking the top off of a car. And when we were on kind of a break and you were explaining things to us, all of a sudden this car showed up out of nowhere, sped in, and somebody jumped out and said, "We need help." Explain why you did that.
It goes back to what you said to start this conversation here, right? We don't know how our day is going to go. Right. It's predictably unpredictable is like how I like to describe our day. You never know what the emergency is going to be, when it's going to be. You can just plan that they're going to come, right? You don't sit down for a meal in the fire station and expect to finish the meal, right? You expect to get a couple bites in before you run. Mm. So that was an opportunity for us to share that experience with you. When you thought things were planned and scheduled, you finish one event, you sit down like you're going to recover and have a chance to maybe have some water, maybe have a granola bar or something and recoup. And next thing you know, somebody's showing up unexpected, requesting your services.
Does that happen at the fire station? Do people come there with emergencies?
Absolutely. Yeah. People come to our front door. People pull up in their cars onto the apron. The majority of our calls are not obviously in the front of the fire station. They're everywhere in the community. Not only in Fountain Valley, but we have a very robust automatic and mutual aid system where we provide services to all of our surrounding partners in the cities around us and statewide. So, and in turn, they also help us and support us. Right. So it's a two-way street.
Yeah, I have to admit that was a little unnerving. All of a sudden, somebody came out, and it was interesting. Also, we went into a small confined room, and you started a fire in there. We had our breathing apparatus and all that, and it was amazing just how hot it got so quickly, and the impairment of vision.
So everyone's seen Backdraft, right? You see Hollywood movies.
Right.
It's crystal clear cameras. There's fire around, no smoke. That's not the reality of it. And that's what we were sharing with you in a very controlled environment, right? In our fire tower with minimal combustibles. But it still gives you the opportunity to feel the heat, see the fire propagate, expand, see the heat layers and the thermal layers coming down, and experience that environment while you're wearing turnouts and a self-contained breathing apparatus.
Right.
So it's a completely different environment than what most people will ever see in their life, hopefully, or see in Hollywood movies.
Yeah, I have to admit, it was. I learned a lot from that. I had mad respect before, and now I have way mad respect for all of the firefighters. So let's talk about the firefighters for a second. So let's talk about the number of calls. Like, how busy is the Fountain Valley Fire Department?
Sure, we're a smaller department, but we're one of the busiest departments in the county by proportion of responses. So we average, if I was to break it down, we have 2 stations. We run approximately 22 emergency responses a day, which comes out to be about 650, 675 a month, or 8,000 responses a year for service. That's just our 911 responses. That doesn't include anything else we do, like training, equipment maintenance, fire prevention, and all the other things that are required to run and maintain a professional fire department.
Yeah, I heard the stats that we were like, if not the busiest per firefighter, one of the busiest in the entire county.
Yeah, we are up there.
That is amazing. Well, let's talk about something else now. Let's talk about the paramedic membership program. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Oh, yes. What do we have 4 or 5 hours? How long do we have?
4 or 5 minutes on that.
Okay. So the paramedic membership program, this is really near and dear to my heart because I truly believe this is a phenomenal program for our community. So the program itself, it's $60 a year in totality. And what it does is if you're a resident here, you own a home in the city, it covers you for all emergency transport, our ambulance services. So if we have to come out, you have a medical aid, and we transport you to the hospital, you're part of our program, there's 0 cost to you.
Right.
0. So the way it works is we will bill your insurance company and we'll collect from that, but we'll write off any deductibles, any additional costs that the insurance company didn't cover. And we cover not only the individual, but the entire family, anybody that lives at your home, not just in your home, anywhere in the city. Mm-hmm. And in addition, if you have any visitors that are over, you're holding Thanksgiving dinner and somebody has a heart attack at your home, then it covers those people too. So It's a phenomenal program for a bang for the buck. I really encourage everybody to look into the program. I believe we're going to have the opportunity to put some of that stuff up onto our screen for this podcast.
Right, we will.
The flyer, and there's a scan code on there, or they can go to the city website and go to the fire department section of that website, and we have information in there on our paramedic subscription program, because I'm really doing whatever outreach like this. I went on Vietjet TV to share that with our Vietnamese language speakers in the community.
Great.
We advertise it on our bus stops around the city. We do biannual and annual mailers to get it out to the communities. We do a ton of community outreach events, and we have information that we share it on at all of those. Right now, we have about 2,000 households enrolled.
That's all, huh?
I would love to double, triple, quadruple that. So
such a great deal.
It's a great deal. It's a great program where we do the outreach in a lot of different angles, and we're trying to expand that program, and it's really a great value. So.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we get that information out there. I think most people just don't know about it, so this is great. We're creating awareness for that. So let's talk about the exciting things that's coming up in the fire station. Talk about fire station number 1. Tell us where it is and what's going on.
So fire station number 1 is on Bouchard, right across the street from Fountain Valley High School. As you know, we have 2 fire stations in the city, right? One on Bouchard, one on New Hope. Both of those fire stations are really near and dear to my heart. They are truly my second home. I spent 3 decades living in those fire stations.
Wow.
So we have plans, though. Fire Station 1 was built back in the early 60s. When it was originally built, it wasn't built to today's standards for building code for emergency response facilities. It wasn't built to ADA standards. It wasn't built to meet the modern day gender diversity needs that are in the fire service.
So how many female firefighters do we have?
Well, we have females in the fire department, but we
Right.
don't have any on the floor. And we don't really have those mixed need facilities to accommodate that. And so that's really important to me. I'm a girl dad and a big supporter of equal opportunity in the fire service. So
Sure.
for me, when I look at our current station, we have one large open, I'll call it a military-style dorm, where there's really no privacy in there. We have one large bathroom that serves all of our first responders, all in one, showers, toilets, everything. So we need to build to the modern standards that provide a little more privacy and the ability for multi-gender accommodations, as well as in a modern fire station too. Right now, when the alarms go off, we got multiple units in there. Everybody wakes up every time there's an alarm, whether it's your call or not.
So let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
So in fire station number 1, you have 2 separate shifts, 2 separate crews at the same location, correct?
Correct. So we run a truck company, which has 4 personnel. It's paramedic. We run a engine company, 4 personnel, paramedic, and we also run the battalion chief out of there.
Right.
In addition to that, we have up to 2 reserve firefighters that are assigned out of that station on a daily basis. And on some occasions, we also will have a paramedic student.
So when a call comes in, it's usually for the truck or the engine, right? Sometimes it's both.
Sometimes it's everybody.
But usually it's one or the other. And
if we have a fire or an all-risk emergency response, it clears the whole house out.
Right.
But if it's a medical aid, it can be one or the other. When the alarms go off, it doesn't discriminate. It just wakes up the entire station. So,
and you mentioned earlier, we have one of the busiest fire departments.
Correct. So for our firefighters, for instance, it's kind of hard to understand unless you've ever lived this lifestyle. You work 24-hour shifts, sometimes 3 to 5 days straight. You go on wildland fires, you're gone for 3 weeks at a time. So it's a very impactful schedule. And when you come to work and you're here for 2 or 3 days in a row and you haven't slept for 2 or 3 days because you're working all day, you get to the evening, let's say you go to bed at 10 or 11 and you get a call at midnight, you're out for an hour, hour and a half, you come back, you finally lay down, you can't go right to sleep, you start working to go to sleep, and then the other unit gets a call.
And they're waking
30 minutes later, and it wakes you right up. You just kind of got to sleep. And then 30 minutes after that, you get another call.
All right.
And then that continues right through the night. So nobody gets any rest. So we can engineer things better to provide better sleep patterns and ultimately provides for a healthier lifestyle for our first responders.
All right. Let's talk about the new fire station. So first off, where is it going to be?
So the new fire station is going to be just north of the current location.
Okay.
The city has purchased a plot of land there. We called it the spec property before. Right. It was the old spec building that was there. And it's just to the north side of the 405 freeway on Bouchard.
Okay. So kind of like behind the Sizzler.
Exactly. Right behind the strip center.
Excellent. So let's talk about that. So how did that come about?
So it's a long process. This is a big project for the city. Started really with strategic planning, looking into the future and planning for our future and kind of reading the tea leaves of where we needed to go.
Yeah, I remember at a council meeting, we had a proposal to remodel the existing station.
Yes.
And I think it was like $3 million, and we were told that would last less than 10 years.
We went through multiple different ideas and theories as we kind of went through that strategic planning concept, right? And like you said, one was there was simple remodel, which would be the second remodel to that station, right? So the station itself, like I said, it's really putting good money at bad. Like I mentioned, it wasn't built to the codes in the first place back in the 60s. There was an addition put to it. A lot of the concrete and the groundwork, all the concrete's breaking up in the back because the groundwork wasn't done right in the first place. So we really determined at that point that at minimum, it needed to be taken down to the ground and starting over. One of the problems with that is the size of the lot. The size of the lot there did not meet what we needed in the long term. And if we're going to build something to this size, scale, and this investment, we need to do it right. We don't want to build something that we've outgrown, invested in the day we move into it.
Okay, so we have the new location picked out. Now we're going to build a new fire station there.
Sure.
Do we have any idea how long that might take?
So the process has already begun. We're in the planning phase now, working with the architect and design team. The fire department, along with our public works department, are working closely with the contractor to put those drawings together so we can get the size, scope, the layout, and then eventually a dollar figure to that, so we really know where we stand and what we're looking at. We got some really good ideas and some really good concepts.
So you talked about the cost of the fire station. So how are we going to fund that?
So if it was just any old city, we would probably reach into our reserves or get a bond. But that's not how we do things here, right? We don't take the easy road. We look for every potential opportunity for funding that we can out there. So we're doing multiple things. Where the size and the shape of the lot right now is advantageous for us to potentially work with some other partners, both public or private, where we could do some other things on that lot that would offset some of the development costs by sharing that with our partners and potentially bring us some long-term revenue sources back in to help offset the costs of building this station. So we're doing that right now. I don't want to get into too much detail because we're working.
It's early. Yeah,
it's early and we're working through these concepts, but we're looking at those opportunities. We're also looking at grant opportunities and federal funding opportunities that are out there. So when I say grant funding, we're looking to integrate an emergency operations center, an EOC. The city, we have an EOC, but it was never really designed or laid out with the proper technology because we established this many, many years ago. And as we know, coming out of post-COVID and some other events that we've had here activating our EOC, we really need...
Wait, what's an EOC?
And it's an emergency operations center.
Okay.
Right. So that's where when we have a large-scale event, say an earthquake,
right,
COVID, we had one of the largest hazardous material events here in Fountain Valley. When we do that, we activate that EOC to support the services of the city and of our first responders.
Okay, so that's partnering, which I love.
Yep.
So let's talk about the trip to D.C. Talk about that a little bit.
So that ties in with what I talked about, grants and federal funding. So we go back a handful of months ago, and you could really touch on some of this because you attended a local meeting with our congressional rep, Michelle Steele.
Right.
And at that meeting, information came up about some earmark funds.
Yeah, so we had a roundtable of all the mayors, which I obviously attended, and there was discussion about what earmarks are available and what was needed. So I brought up the idea that we need a new fire station. And you were going to be in D.C. anyway, right?
I was, because I was pursuing another grant opportunity.
I love that you do
for a specialized equipment that we need in the fire department, looking to bring some of those other federal funds back to help us offset our costs here locally.
Yeah, so I heard you were going to be there, and I said, hey, Chief, you mind if I tag along? I'm going to be in D.C. at that time anyway, unrelated to city business. I didn't charge the city to be there. I was there on work. And we went and we met with Michelle Steele in her office, and you had put together a proposal.
Yeah, that was after you came back from that meeting, we had a discussion, and we worked here locally and internally to come up with a plan to go forward and sell our need to Michelle Steele, our congressional rep, and really justify what it is we need here in the city and kind of come up with some dollar figures on how they could support us and provide some different options in that. So we put together a pretty comprehensive plan that we were able to
you did a great
communicate
job with that. Yeah.
with Michelle, and she's really a big supporter of Fountain Valley here locally. And I think the meeting went really well. We walked out of there, I think, feeling pretty good and feeling like that we had that support. And since then, we've had some really good news coming out of that meeting. First of all, the Congresswoman has 15 projects that she can move forward. So we made that cut.
Right.
So she accepted our project. We moved forward in the 15. That went to the Appropriations Committee, and we made that cut. So as we sit here today, the funding is going forward for $5 million to support our fire station project.
$5 million.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, we're very excited. I mean, that's just phenomenal to think that we can kind of get that federal support to come in to our local community.
Yeah, so it's not official yet, but it's in the House Appropriations Subcommittee, from what I understand. They've earmarked $5 million for help us to get started, and that was a request for phase one, right?
That was phase one, correct.
So I guess next year we're going to go for phase two and ask for an additional funding, correct?
It's a great project and it's worthy of it.
There you go.
Right, and I believe that we have that support with Congresswoman Steele. So yeah, we absolutely will. We're going to keep our fingers crossed that things are going positive with this first phase, and then we're going to continue the development of the station. We're going to continue to think big and push this project forward, and we'll continue to reach out for support and look at every opportunity we have outside of simply saying we're going to use internal funds and look for a bond. So we're going to keep looking for other opportunities to bring funding in and move this thing forward.
I like that. We don't want to use just our residents' tax dollars. We want to be as careful as we can with that because this is a pretty major project. So I know in talking with the Congresswoman's office, we're waiting right now for the final federal budget to be approved. So once that's done, we'll get official. All right, so that's all good news there in terms of the fire station. So Chief, tell me, what are some upcoming events for the fire department?
Well, we got a long list of events, and we're doing things on a daily basis out there. But I'll touch on one specifically. I am going to be participating in a fundraiser for CHOC Hospital, and this is it's the Demolition Derby, and it's out at the Orange County Fairgrounds on
fun.
August 4th. So I'm actually going to strap myself into an old motorhome.
Oh, you're kidding.
With 3 fire chiefs and 3 police chiefs throughout the county. And we're going to ram them into each other until there's only one motorhome left. And all of the money earned out of this goes to the kids at CHOC Hospital.
Oh, that's
so
wonderful.
I got the great opportunity the other day to go out and kind of do a media event there at CHOC and got a full background tour, including the cancer floor, and really got to sit and meet with the kids and share stories and share some of our fire department swag with them and see the smiles on their faces. And it just inspired me to really, really want to be part of this. So it goes back, for me, it's a small thing. My wife's been a volunteer wish granter with Make-A-Wish for almost 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And I see her engagement, and I get the opportunity to help with her on occasions. And these kids in the hospital are the kids that she does those wishes for. So from a fire department perspective and from the Make-A-Wish perspective, I'm really excited. And hopefully we'll be able to maybe get our scan code up on the screen. If anybody out there is interested in donating to CHOC, it can be anything. $1 helps these kids.
Well, I'm going to make sure I'm out there to watch you. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I've actually attended that before and saw that. That is so much fun to watch.
Excellent. August 4th, Orange County Fairgrounds. Come on out.
All right. And then I hear on August 3rd, the firefighters are going to do a pickleball tournament.
Absolutely. They do this annually. This is a great fundraiser for the Firefighters Association. And the Firefighters Association does phenomenal work all year round. And they use events like this to help raise funds that they use for different charities and donations that they make. And this is really, it's a big event. Come on out, participate. You can get onto the Fountain Valley Firefighters Association website and find out information about it.
We'll post information on that.
Yeah, we'll post it here on the podcast.
Yeah, I know that I played in it last year. It was tons of fun. I teamed up with former Mayor Michael Vo. And,
you got the trophy, right?
I think for last place.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's
Hey,
all
it's still a trophy.
We got a participation trophy. That's all right. We had fun, and that's all that matters. All right. So tell us, what else should we know about the fire department?
So I got two things for you real quick.
right.
One, we just had our 60th anniversary.
Awesome.
So that was super exciting. 60 years of service here in this community, going back to 1964. It was July 1st, 1964, that we ran our first call out of Fire Station 1 that we're looking to redevelop at this time. So that was exciting to hit that milestone. And secondly, I'd like to share, so we just received our Class 1 ISO rating. Cool. ISO rating stands for Insurance Services Offices. And what does that mean for the community? First of all, less than 1% of fire departments in the entire nation reach that standard. And for many, many years, as a fireman, growing up in here, it was always, well, you're a small department, you could never reach that. You're a Class 3, maybe a Class 2. And we put together a team here internally with my executive team and said, no, we don't believe in that. We think bigger. So we really dug into the data and put together the reports and the statistics to support where we are. And it's different areas of our response, our communication centers, our water systems, all these different things. And we were able to show to ISO that we were a Class 1. Matter of fact, they rate you Class 1s in the top 90%. We ended up at just over 97% on our rating. And what this does for the community is large insurance companies use these ratings as part of their process of determining what your rate is. So since you have a Class 1 fire department in this city, that helps reduce your rates. And we all know right now insurance rates are going up exponentially for everybody. Auto insurance, homeowners insurance. Right. So this helps every one of our residents in this community by lowering their rates, whatever amount it is that they use by that increased rating. So we're proud that we're a Class 1. We're in that top 1% or less in the nation, and we're proud that we can provide those services here in Fountain Valley.
Well, that's awesome. On behalf of all of the residents of Fountain Valley, thank you and the department for doing that, because as you say, all of us are going to benefit from that, not only in insurance and saving money, but it's just a proof point on what a great department we have. And if something unfortunately bad happens, we know that you guys are going to be there and taking care of. So, Chief,
I'd like to take all the credit, but I can't because it's really a combined effort. Every department in this city is part of that rating with us, as well as our firefighters and our unions that all work together to put together this strong group of success. So everybody
that's the Fountain Valley way for sure. Well, thank you, Chief. I appreciate you being here today and taking time to talk to us about all things related to the fire department. And for those of you at home, if you're interested in a subject matter to be featured on a podcast, let us know. You can email fvproud@fountainvalley.gov. So thank you, Chief McQuaid, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in for episode 7 of the podcast. We hope you tune in next month for our monthly podcast series, A Nice Place to Podcast. I'm your mayor and host, Glenn Grandis. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everyone.